Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Dom. I figured I'd just put out a quick video as opposed to trying to get all of our schedules together to have a meeting. This might be just easier. I want to thank you for at least considering to join the May 9th annual update, where we'll be discussing land, and specifically, implementation issues regarding land. So, what I've got so far, I've got Tanisha from Energy has agreed to speak. So thank you, Tanisha. John Zoller from VA looks like he's accepted the May 9th invitation from VA, I'm sorry. And from GSA, Stephanie Crane. I'm still waiting on a few of you others. I know you have to clear things and, of course, your calendar too. You got to check with your superiors. Derek Washington and Ken Kaysen from Interior, I've invited them. I'm hoping that they'll be able to come and join the panel. And DOD, Janana is looking to get someone from Army who may have gone through some implementation issues with land to be a speaker. But, I think it was Janana who had asked, what kind of issues are there, what kind of questions, and honestly, I could have done the spotlight all myself, right? And hogged up the show and tried to win an Oscar. Whoop-de-doo. But that's not good. That's not right. I don't want to be a filter, and I don't want to be a suppressor of information. Not that I would do anyway, ever do that. As you know, I'm pretty much a straight shooter, right? So I think the best thing to do is to have you, the preparers at the agencies, just share your experiences to the degree you'd like to share them, how you'd like to share them. Look, the land standard is not a popular standard with several agencies, okay? We understand that. It's been a big push at Interior, GSA, probably at DOD as well. We can go through that history some other time, why we got here. But be that as it may, we do know that in Interior, thanks to some key leadership from Ken and Derek, there have been significant strides and lessons learned. That doesn't say that there was no aches and pains. I'm sure that if they can join us, they'll share those. I want you folks just to be upfront and honest. And I'm not going to, necessarily, certainly I'm not going to disagree, because you know me and you know my story. If you were listening to yesterday's board meeting, I got a bit emotional. I understand the preparer. I was there. Okay? So you preach to the choir when you talk to me, because I suffered in your shoes. I know how difficult it is. So I want you to be honest. The only thing I can try to do is put everything that is said in a contextual form to Standard 59, right? Not to necessarily defend it, but to explain why it's there. Because at the end of the day, as the board considers whether or not to retain Standard 59 the way it is, with the derecognition criteria for fiscal year 26, and moving the information to basic, that jury's still out. So, the board makes its determination in fiscal year 25, 26 as to what it wants to do there. And we're working with our partners at GAO, as well as some of you might actually bring that up, the audit matters, but again, implementation challenges, unfiltered, to the degree you wish to, sanitize them, it's up to you, but I don't want to muzzle you. That is not why I've invited you, just for the opposite, to express your concerns. We want those out. The board, the preparers, the community, the auditors all need to hear, because they can learn from your experiences, okay? And of course, the board can also consider this in their re-examination of 59. So let's keep focused on implementation challenges, both on the preparer side as well as what you're experiencing with the auditors, with your business units, how difficult it's been. And of course, focus also on solutions that you've developed to overcome these challenges. Now that you're undergoing this audit, I shouldn't say audit, but this review, if you will, with the GAO audit advice or audit guidance from November 2023, talk about that, and have you had to develop, competing, compensating controls or new policies and procedures, new controls, etc. So think about that. Also, the other thing I'd like for you to do is, in 59, we clarified the definition of stewardship land and GPP&E land. I believe we certainly did a lot of work with stewardship land. I think even GPP&E land we amended. So think about those definitions as well. Are they helpful? The task force, a lot of, I say you, preparers help prepare and define or redefine these definitions, because in Standard 6 originally they were like, okay, not specific enough though. So in any event, think about that, okay? The definitions. To include outer continental shelf, which I think, we scoped out. Hopefully that's not an issue. I do get questions about submerged land, and the estimates there are, you could include submerged land or not. The board is not looking for that kind of precision. Don't go trying to count the acres under the Colorado River or, under a stream or a lake. It doesn't make any sense. And no auditor should be requiring that, by the way. Okay, because the standard requires estimated acreage, and we make that a point. So talk about that, or think about it at least. Land rights, we have temporary and permanent land rights. Are those definitions clear enough? Do you believe you need further guidance on whether land rights are separable or not? I think we kind of talk about that in the standard. I'd have to go back and read it to be quite honest with you. But the board's idea there with separable and non-separable was, hey, look, if your land rights are separated from the land somehow, the agreement with the farmer or with the owner of the land specifies you've got certain rights, that would be separable because it's identified, and then you can kind of report on those. But if it's not separable and the farmer says, look, in exchange for you giving me rent or lease payment every month, that's your land. You can drive your tanks over it. You could pitch your tents over it. You could, do fishing and hunting, whatever you're doing with that land. Then those rights are not separable. So really the board didn't want you to have to worry about separating rights. So a note disclosure would be a generic disclosure that, we've got land rights, some of which are separable, some of which are not, that generally include hunting, fishing, putting up a pup tent and making sure that Smokey the Bear's cool with what we're doing. Which, by the way, I should have invited Forest Service. I forgot to do that. Gosh, I hope they're not insulted. But a lot of them have gone on, and all my contacts at Forest Service are gone. So anyhow, I probably should reach out to them. But if any of you have, like comrades, I should say, colleagues over there, let them know about the May 9th, and maybe, they'll want to join too. Okay, estimating acreage again, how difficult is this for you? Do you have situations like a DOD where Joint Base Andrews, Joint Base McGuire, Army, Air Force, are you kind of like double counting? How are you addressing those? Now, the good thing in DOD, there's maybe a dozen or so joint bases around the world, so this should not be a big problem. And even if it were an issue of double counting, we're not being able to delineate Army, Air Force, Marine Corps, Navy, who's got what land. You do estimates, right? You do estimates. Lastly, the subcategorization into conservation, preservation, commercial use, and administrative operational land. How difficult has that been? So these are things that you just want to kind of think about. The way I envision, unless some of you email me or call 703-309-4461, unless you want to all meet as a pre-brief, we could do that as a group and kind of coordinate the scripts, but I really didn't want it to be scripted. I will moderate the session. Um, you know, I'm assuming that it'll be sort of like a free flow, open kind of discussion for about 35, 40 minutes, however much time you've given us. We probably won't get questions from the audience. We'll probably get commentary. I expect commentary. And some of us have already talked about who we already expect commentary from. But you listen, they're free to express their views, good, bad, or indifferent. And that's what's great about our democratic republic. At least, well, it's another topic of discussion, but free speech ain't free, folks, right? So we got to fight for it to maintain it. That's one thing we've learned. But at least at FASAB, we want all the voices heard. Minority, majority, doesn't matter. All the voices need to be heard. And to be frank, in my experience, the board never seemed to look at, okay, or very rarely look at the number in the majority compared to the minority and say, well, we're going to go with the majority. They don't often do that. I mean, most of the time, they weight minority views, even from one or two people, equally, as if there were like 20 against that minority. So the board's really been good that way, and I think that's the way it should be. You shouldn't base weight of an opinion predicated on the number of people who have that opinion necessarily, because they might actually have the right opinion, even though they're in the minority. So I say that to basically encourage you that, I'll moderate it in a way where, we'll see what the audience might wish to bring to the table as far as critique. So I don't know if there's anything else we're missing for the panel discussion. Remember, if you bring up cost benefit, understand this though, because this is where I will come back to you, because it was a citizen's viewpoint during the land deliberations on the task force. The citizen basically said, I don't care that you incur the cost, Mr. Government or Miss Government, because you're doing it for the benefit of me and all the other Americans, citizens, taxpayers. We accrue the benefit, not you. So agencies typically come back and say, well, there's no benefit for me. Why am I doing this? The cost benefit, the cost exceeds the benefit, and why are we doing this for other people? Well, that's the way it is. We're a democracy, right? We're a republic, I should say, that uses a democratic form of government. And that really does require transparency and honesty, despite what we've been seeing. Things have gotten a little crazy the last few years, but the more that we understand what the truth is and trust the people with the truth, hopefully then the better the country can become, the better the policies can become. And we as accountants have an ethical calling. We have a high professional calling and duty to serve the public interest. And, let's not forget that. So I'm going to get off to my soapbox. Wish you a great weekend. Reach out to me. Again, if you think we should meet as a group and coordinate stuff, but I really want you to just have some fun with this, share your war stories and also some successes. Please point to successes as well, if you have any, and how you might have overcome challenges. That's what I'd like the audience to take away, because leases is out there, and that's a big, big, big standard too. P3s are out there. That's a pretty big one. So the audience needs also to be uplifted and encouraged to learn, let's say, from DOD or VA or GSA, lessons learned, best practices. Hopefully, though, in the next few years, we will spend more time re-examining our standard. This is Dom Savine. This is not the board. Although the board is re-examining, in spirit, they're saying the same thing I am in spirit. I say this differently, though, so I disclaim this from the board. Dom Savine's personal hope And again, if you heard what I had to say at yesterday's board meeting, you know why I speak this from the heart. My personal hope is that the board pauses for the next few reporting cycles, shall we say, to re-examine and to simplify the standards and to focus on those, whether it's leases, land, P3s, that it really wants agencies to do better. And I hope that we can come out and train you and encourage you and then learn from you and also say, hey, wait, maybe there's a standard or a disclosure that doesn't really work. It doesn't serve, the public interest, but it creates burden. That would be great. We need each other. Monica Valentine made it a point when she couldn't do it in February. I had to go to the DC chapter, but her discussion was this collaboration. We cannot do it without you, the community. We are not, hopefully, ever going to go back to being viewed as that ivory tower standard setter with the tin ear. That was the misconception or misperception many people had. We're trying to get away from that. Okay. So listen, thank you again. I'm sorry I kept you here 16 minutes and 28 seconds, but have a great weekend.